So this is our last topic in our algebra review session before we start our chapter 1 of geometry. And so we're still going to be doing a little solving, but we're going to have some fractions. So it says here, when there is a fraction in front of the parentheses, hello, like right there, it is often easiest to multiply by the, and there's an or here. Okay, so a lot of times we're taught to multiply by the reciprocal. And for a fraction, a reciprocal is a flip. And the reason that gets rid of it is because now you'll notice we have 2 over 2, 3 over 3, it's 1 and it's gone. So that does work. Sometimes that's not my favorite method, but we could also choose to multiply both sides through by the denominator. Because really, people tend to not care for working with fractions. They'd rather work with integers, like the numbers 1, 2, 3, -10. We generally prefer those when we're doing arithmetic to 2/5 or 3/5. So although you might be tempted to distribute this 3/5 in, a lot of times what happens is you end up working not only with one fraction, but multiple fractions. And we don't really like that. So we can choose to multiply by the denominator. Probably should have had those two switched on those answer blanks, but it doesn't really matter. Well, the denominator is 5. So what I would do is I would take my 15 on the left, and I'd multiply it by 5. And I'd take my 3/5 on the right, multiply it by 5. Notice when I do that to both sides, I still would have two things that are equal. All right, so I introduced this multiplying both sides by 5. Now the reason I did that is because now my fraction's gone. So 15 times 5 is 75. And now on the right, I just have the 3 left over and I have no more fractions. So that way is pretty nice to get rid of that fraction by grabbing that denominator, multiply both sides by it, it dies on the right-hand side here. So now I would just distribute this in and continue on solving as we did in previous sections, which I don't think I'm going to do. I think we've had enough practice with solving. I might as well do it. So my OCD is kicking in, kiddos. All right. So 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 20 is 60, right? And I'd have the plus between the two. Well, here's my x over here to solve for it. Let's get rid of that plus 60 by doing the opposite operation. We have 15 equals 18 times x. Well, how do I undo multiplication by 18? I divide by 18. Why? Because so I'm just left with x, and that's what I want. But whatever I do on one side, I must do to the other. So I get that my x is equal to 15/18, which does reduce, by the way. So we might want to take a 3 out of the top and a 3 out of the bottom, because oftentimes it's going to say leave your answers in simplest form, in which case this would not cut it. All right, now my other option is to multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction. So I'm going to take that 15, I'm going to multiply it by the flip, okay, on the left. And again, I'm referring to up here, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. So here's my reciprocal. I'm going to take my 3/5, I'm going to multiply it also by the reciprocal. And then I still have that 6x plus 20 in the parentheses. Now this whole fraction is gone. And I end up with 5/3 times 15, which is going to give me 25. And that equals 6x plus 20. Let's see if I can get a little more realistic here and scroll. I can't. So I'd subtract the 20 from both sides to attack the x. I'd get 5 is equal to 6x. And then again, when I divide both sides by 6, I get the same answer. So you get to pick which way you want to solve. It doesn't really matter to me, right? What I wouldn't do, though, not that it's illegal, I wouldn't dump the fraction in. But you could, and you'd still get the right answer. That's it. Have a good one.